श्रीचैतन्यामनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुकुं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम् Wonderful. Thank you for joining in today. Today we are continuing on 18th chapter. We covered text 13. Now we are starting with text 14. I'm sharing my screen, so please follow along. One second. Adhishthanam tatha karta. Can
अधिष्ठानां तदा कर्ता
karanam cha prathak vidam.
कारणं च पृथग्विधं
Vividascha prathak chesta.
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
Daivam chaivatara panchamam.
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम्.
The place of action, very important words. I'll repeat: the place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the five factors of action. Very important. For any actions to be performed, who are the doers? It says the place of action, which is the body, the performer who is actually performing, the senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the five factors of action. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word adhishthanam refers to the body. The soul within the body is acting to bring about the results of activity and is therefore known as karta. Who is the karta? The body is not the karta. The soul is a karta because ultimately this body is alive because there is a soul within it. The moment soul leaves the body, that body cannot perform anything. So who is the doer? The soul is a doer. Like for an example, the car is the vehicle, the car is like the body, and then the person who is driving is the soul. If the person isn't there in the car is of no use. It's just a showpiece, right? So that's the whole point, right? So the soul is knower and the doer, as stated in Shruti. What is that? The soul is not just the doer, but he's the knower also. For an example, if I'm performing certain action, I know what am I performing. It's not that somebody else is doing on my behalf. I know what I'm doing, right? So I'm also witnessing what I'm performing now. Esha hi drishta shrishta. This is from Prashna Upanishad. Prabhupada that is also confirmed in Vedanta Sutra by the verses no ta eva and karta. Karta shastraha vat. The instruments of actions are the senses. What are the senses? karmendriyas, right? So we have karma indriyas through which we perform various action. For an example, when I'm doing a charity, I'm utilizing my senses to give something, right? So through the senses, right, the instruments of action are the senses. Through senses, these things are being performed. And by the senses, the soul acts in various ways. I want to see something, I want to eat something, I want to feel something. Where does that come from? That come from senses, because through sensory perspective we see things, the world, right? Like we say, there is a beautiful saying, we see the world. If you wear orange glasses, you see the world orange. It's not that the world is orange, but because I am wearing orange glasses, that's how I'm seeing things around based on that. So it is through senses we can perceive things. I like, for an example, a person who has a half glass water, someone may say it's a half glass empty, someone say it's half glass full. That's a sense perception different people have, right? That's what we are talking about. But sorry, and the sense is the soul. For each and every action there is a different endeavor, but all one's activities depend on the will of the super soul. Ultimately, this body is given by material energy, but whatever I desire, the super soul has to sanction. Unless super soul sanctions, things do not manifest. Now, one may say, if someone is performing a wrong act, why super soul is approving that? Well, based on the tendency one person has to perform various activities, super soul grants it, because super soul is like a loving father who doesn't want to limit our free will, right? So he wants to give the liberty to us to use that in the loving way. What is love means? Love is not by force, but love is by our desire, right? So who is seated within the heart as a friend? The supreme lord is the super cause. Under these circumstances, he who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of super soul situated within the heart is naturally not bound by any activity. So, as long as I am performing my activity based on sensory perception, right, I will have to be in the cycle of birth and death. So the question is, how do I get out of cycle of birth and death? Because you cannot get away with karma. Day and night we are performing karma, whether those are pious deeds or those are um, impious deeds. And based on the pious deeds, we reap the fruits of it. And impious deeds, based on that, I reap the bad results, right? But basically, the life is all about going through good and bad, which is because of the activities we are performing through the sense perception. But when I perform my activity keeping Krishna in the center, it does not accrue karma, it does not accrue positive or negative result. One may say, why not positive? Because even for positive, I have to come in the cycle of birth and death, right? Like you see different devatas and higher planet. How do they get there? It's just because of their good karma, their good activities reap them the value or reap them the benefit of going to their heavenly planets. But ultimately, when their quota is over, they have to come back into this material world. They are still living in material, but they have to come to Prithvi Lok on that and miserably suffer. So the question comes in is, do I want to do I want to perform pious activities? No, because I want to get away from the cycle of birth and death. That's why we want to go over karma. We don't want to be bound by karma, right? So the only way for that to happen is performing everything by Krishna, by keeping Krishna in the center. Prabhupada says those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the supreme will, the super soul, and supreme personality of Godhead. Like, like I was just sharing one time, Sant Tukaram, who is a very, very famous saint in Maharashtra. So he actually was in so much of love with Vitthaladev. Vitthaladev is Lord Chaitanya, that he would actually build, he would recite beautiful poetry in glorification of Vitthaladev. That is his own composition. But the other Brahmanas, the Smartha Brahmana, they were very envious of him. How come he is singing? And the whole village was just so mad after his abhangas, his poetry. So they were envious, and they created a plan that Vithala was, Tukaram was forced to actually put all of his all his abhangas in a river. And there are two versions of it. Some say that when he put all his abhangas in the river, they actually came back to him. They did not go anywhere. They were completely not wet. They were not wet at all, even though they were in the water, and they just float on the river and they came back. And another version says that even after those abhangas were lost, the villagers were in so much of love with this, they remembered these abhangas by heart. So, a pure devotee, when he desires something, Krishna reciprocates and accordingly he manifests things. I was watching um, the empowered Acharya about Srila Prabhupada. So when Srila Prabhupada initially he tried in India for many years, but he wasn't successful. People were not valuing him. So he came to West. He came to America, and he had so many difficulties. But by Krishna's grace, finally he was successful, and he built so many temples. And now after few years, he was coming to India with his Western devotees, and then wherever he was going in India, he was becoming extremely successful. So he came to Bombay, he came to various places, he came to Surat. But there were mafias in Kolkata, and they got to know about Prabhupada's success. So the gang, the master of that gang, he decided, saying that let him come to Kolkata, we will kill him. And when Prabhupada came to Kolkata, he actually built he had a program, and there were masses of people came there, and these dacoits or these mafias actually came to kill Prabhupada. And there was a huge rush, there was a mass of people. And then when these guys were actually disturbing everything and was about to like attack on Prabhupada started singing Brahma Samhita, Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The moment Prabhupada started singing, something happened to these dacoits. They actually released all their weapons, and they were not able to control what is going in their mind, because Krishna is there in everybody as Paramatma. So Krishna inspired them not to do that heinous activity. That is the power. That is the power of pure devotee, because Krishna says, I am the property of my devotee. Why bhakti is simple but not easy? Because someone who performs bhakti purely, Krishna becomes subservient. We all know in Mahabharata, what was Arjuna's role? Arjuna was a charioteer, and Krishna was a chariot driver. And now imagine, on Indian roads, we remember there are so many honks. Now imagine when millions of people in the war field, how is Krishna going to listen to Arjuna which side to go? So it is said that Arjuna will kick on the right shoulder of Krishna, which means go on the right. To go on the left, he will kick on the left shoulder of Krishna. One may say, oh, how come Krishna is becoming a charioteer? Right, chariot driver, and then he is just getting the beatings. And it is mentioned in Mahabharata that after a certain period of time, the horses of Arjuna were very tired. So Krishna took in the corner and started getting the water for horses and started massaging them. That is the power of devotion. That's what Prabhupada came here to give us. When we practice devotion with sincerity, Krishna reciprocates. Our challenge is that we don't want to give our best. That's why we are just here, right? So the whole idea is everything is dependent on the supreme will, the super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead. So ultimately, whatever we do, we are doing it for some Siddhir Hari Toshanam. We are doing it for Hari's Toshanam. Everything we do. Whether I'm working, whether I'm giving class, whether I'm attending my class, whatever we are doing, it's on everything is done for Krishna's pleasure. Any questions or comments here on this verse?
No problem.
Okay, we will read text 15. Shariravan manobhiryat
Sarira Vang Manobirya
karma prabhate naraha
Karma Prarabhate Naraha
nyayam va viparitam va
Nyayam Va Viparitam Va
panchaite tasya hetava.
Panchaite Tasya Hetavaha
Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by five factors. The word right and wrong are very significant in this verse. Right work is a work done in terms of prescribed direction in the scripture, not by whims. According to me, this is right. According to me, this is wrong. No. There has to be a pivot based on that the decisions are made. For an example, if I'm driving at the speed of 90, where the speed limit is 70, then you may say, and you're caught by a cop. You may say, I thought the speed limit is 90, so I'm driving at 90. The cop says, no, I think it is 70. Will you debate? No, you won't debate. Because the cop will give you the manual saying that look at the speed limit of this road. And here is what the rule says. If you're driving 10 plus speed, this is how much the fine is. So there is a base of rules, the rule book. So everything as a human life, whatever rules which are there, they are mentioned in scriptures. Anything performed as per the rules of scriptures are called right things. Anything which is performed other than what is mentioned in the scripture is a wrong thing. So that's the pivot. But whatever is done requires these five factors for its complete performance. What are those five factors? Can someone tell me one by one? What are the five factors? Who are the performer? We just read it in the previous verse.
Performer is the soul, the
Okay.
Karta.
One is soul. What? Who else? First one is body. Correct. That's what
Yeah.
we said. Let go back to previous verse again. What is that? The first one is the body, which is the performer, which is the soul. Various senses, that's the third one. Various different kind of endeavor, and ultimately super soul. So the body, the soul, the senses, different kind of endeavor, and ultimately super soul. These are the five doers, or these are the five, whatever we are performing is being done by these five factors. Okay, let's read next text 16. Tatraivam sati kartaram
Tatraivam Sati Kartaram
atmanam kevalam tu yaha
Atmanam Kevalam Tuyaha
pashyati yakrita buddhitvan
Pasyasya Krutabuddhi Kvan
nasa pashyati dharmatihi durmatihi.
Napasyati Durmatihi.
Therefore, one who thinks himself is the only doer, which is the soul, not considering the five factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Now, this is very important. When I take a credit for something I received, for an example, somebody becomes a millionaire, somebody becomes a billionaire, or someone is very highly educated. He said, look at me, this is how much I've studied. So he is thinking he is the doer. However, the doers are all these five factors. So if he is skipping these five factors thinking that I am the doer, he is in myth. Prabhupada says in the purport, A foolish person cannot understand that the super soul is sitting as a friend within the conducting his action. Although the material cause are the place, worker, endeavor, and the senses, the final cause is supreme. Krishna has to sanction, Paramatma has to sanction. Without that, nothing will happen. Right? Therefore, one should see not only the four material causes, but the supreme efficient cause as well as supreme efficient cause as well. One who does not see the supreme thing himself to be the doer, right? Does not see, that's basically the people who are not intelligent enough to understand who is actually the karta. So ultimately, what are these three verses teaching us is we are not the doers. There is so much happening behind what we can think about. For an example, if you go and give an interview, whether you're going to get an offer or whether you're not going to get an offer, you are just one aspect of it. So super soul of that person has to sanction that this guy should get a job. Like one time, this is a real story, very important one. Lot of learning from that. So one time, most of us, one or the other, we went to the visa interview. First time when we came to United States or whatever is right. So there was this person. This was a devotee who actually went for visa stamping to embassy. Now he was observing other people who were actually appearing for visa interview under the campus. So there was one guy who was wearing a nice suit. He had all the documents. He went to the interviewer's window. Interviewer asked him the document. This guy gave the document. The interviewer threw the passport back on his face, saying that your visa is rejected. So this devotee was watching. He was looking at this thing. The next person after that was there was a lady who had a very small child. He was yelling, crying, and when she went to the window, the interviewer asked for the document, and because of the child was crying, the file fell from her hand, and the documents also fell off. She somehow managed to pick up all the documents, and she gave documents, but she didn't have the exact documents which this interviewer was looking for. This interviewer took the passport, said, your visa is approved. Now, what do you understand from this? What is the probability of a person who doesn't have even all the documents? Her visa is approved, but a person who has all the documents, he was wearing nicely, he was very composed, but his visa is rejected. This is Paramatma sanctions. The Paramatma within the heart of that person has to sanction that this person should get it. Right? If I'm thinking I am the doer because of my capability, I got this job, then we are in a big myth. There are so many factors for us to actually, and this is just one part of it. You know, even when we take a birth, what are our mother and father? We don't even have a choice to choose where we will be born, who will be our mother and father. But based on our desire, based on our karma, based on their desire, and based on our karma, Prakriti creates that formula which soul has to go into which mother's womb. That's the power. Our independence is zero. I can't choose where I'm supposed to be born. I can't choose where I should die. I'll tell you another story. So there was this chai wala. You know, these in India, you have tapris, you have these shops on the street who sell tea. So this guy was selling a tea, and Yamaraj came there. Now, because he was looking beautiful, so the chai wala was, was talking nicely to him. He did not know he's Yamaraj. So he was talking nicely to him. He made basically a friendship with Yamraj. And then the Yamraj, then he asked, who are you? And he didn't mention that, but he had a list. What is Yamraj carrying? Yamraj carrying a list of people whose soul he is going to drag, right? So now this, after talking for some time, this tea wala or chai wala got to know, man, this is the guy who's Yamraj. So he said, you must be tired, you're working day and night. You just relax for some period of time. And Yamraj ji rested there. So he saw a paper which Yamraj ji was having. So what he saw, his name was first, which means he was supposed to be taken next. So what he did is he cut his name from the first and put it in the last. Everyone is with me so far? So Yamraj moved the name of this chaiwala from first to the last. And then Yamraj was resting. This guy was thinking, okay, I'm at least saved. I'm pushed back, later. It'll take some time. And then Yamraj woke up. He said, oh, so kind of you, you are very nice. You helped me and you gave me nice this herbal tea and all that stuff. Um, so what I'm going to do is, generally I go from top to bottom. Today I will change my sequence. I will go from bottom to top. So who was the next person? That chai wala is the next person. So ultimately, who sanctions, based on that everything happens in our life? Super soul has to sanction that this person has to go here, this person has to land here, this person is supposed to get married to this person based on the karma, but super soul has to sanction, right? So therefore one should not see only a four material causes, but ultimately everything is approved by super soul. Any questions or comments before we move to next one? Okay, no questions. We will move to verse 17. Yasya naha krito bhavo
यस्य नाहङ्कृतो भावो
buddhiryasya na lipyate
बुद्धिर्यस्य न लिप्यते
tvapi sa imal lokan
हत्वापि स इमान् लोकान्
na hanti na nibhadyate.
न हन्ति न निपत्यते.
One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills man in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his action. Let's repeat this again. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, means clear, though he kills man in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his action, which means he doesn't get the karma. What do you think? Which means I can kill any person and then I will not get the karma? Well, very important part, the two first aspect of it. I should not be motivated by false ego. Why does killing happen? Even fights between the country, because I have certain agenda behind it. This guy did this to me. I will take a revenge. Where is this coming from? False ego. What is false ego? I, me, and mine. And now this I, me, and mine can start from a child. If you see from a child, he's attached to his chocolate. If somebody takes a chocolate or pencil, he fights. Then we grow up. Then we increase our diameter. Oh, this is my house. If anybody is touching my house, this is my house. Or you see, transpassing is prohibited. Now, this is my land. If anybody is passing through that, this is the thing. Then it goes to family, goes to community, goes to country. So it expands that I, me, and mine, which is everything is driven by false ego. And what is my intelligence? Intelligence is thinking on the platform of body, not on the platform of soul. right? So exactly opposite people, even though apparently looks like they are killing, but they are not getting karma. Can you give me an example from scriptures which applies where this verse is applied?
Mahabharata Yuddha.
Correct. Though Arjuna is killing people, but is he bound by karma? No. Why he is not bound by karma? Can anybody say that?
He's doing his duty or something.
Come again, Manaji.
He's doing his duty.
Yeah, but I would say if you take or if you think about the terrorists, they also think that I'm doing the duty.
But the instructions was given by
Correct.
Krishna itself.
Krishna himself is saying
Krishna
it's
itself.
time to establish dharma. To establish dharma, the people who are following a dharma principle, they have to be killed, right? So that's what. So Prabhupada says beautifully in the purport. In this verse, the Lord informs Arjuna that the desire not to fight arises from false ego. If you remember the first chapter, what are the reasons Arjuna said, I don't want to fight? He was thinking about, even if I win, whom I'm going to enjoy with because my family will be gone, right? He is thinking on the bodily principle that I'm going to fight with my relatives, I'm going to kill them. How can I take care of things after that? Right? So that's what Krishna is clarifying. Whatever he was giving the reason were because of the false ego. Arjuna thought himself to be the doer of action, but he did not consider the supreme sanction within and without. I'll give you another beautiful story, very important one. So Karna, we all know, we all of us have seen Mahabharata. So Karna was fighting with Arjuna, and at a certain part or certain time, his chariot wheel got stuck, right? And then he got down to remove the wheel from the hole wherever it was stuck. Krishna told Arjuna, shoot the arrow. And Karna saw Arjuna is trying to about to shoot the arrow. And Karna said, oh, this is adharma. This is not dharma. You don't try to shoot someone who doesn't have weapon. What did Krishna say? Oh Karna, you are talking about dharma. Where was your dharma when Arjuna's son without the weapon was being killed? Right? Where was your dharma when Draupadi was pulled into the sabha and being tried to disrobe? Where was your dharma when Pandavas were actually sent in a wooden house? They were sleeping and they burned the house. Where was your dharma at that time, Karna? And then Arjuna shooted and Karna died. And who is Karna? Karna is a Surya Putra. So he went to Surya. He said, this is not fair. What Krishna did is not fair because he actually ordered Arjuna that you shoot the arrow on me. So this is not fair. This is not right. So Surya Dev gave an analysis to Karna. What is the analysis or what is the conclusion he told? He says there are two dharmas. How many dharma? There are two dharmas. One is a Samanya dharma and second is a Vishesha dharma. What are two dharmas? Samanya dharma and Vishesha dharma. So Samanya dharma, when you wanted um, when you wanted to fight against Pandavas, Krishna came and told you, why don't you fight on the Pandava side? Because you are actually even elder than Yudhishthira. If Pandavas win, you will anyhow become a king. So you come on the Pandava side, but you didn't accept that offer because you thought, I ate the salt of Duryodhana. Now, what is a Vishesha Dharma? Vishesha Dharma is apparently from a moral principle perspective, it may not right, but when Krishna is giving you an instruction that you go and fight on the side of Pandavas, why didn't you accept that? So, special dharma, which is in this case Vishesha Dharma, always precedes over Samanya Dharma. So, what was a Samanya Dharma in this case for Arjuna? Not to fight with ancestors, not to kill them. But what is a Vishesha Dharma? That Krishna himself is telling we have to establish Dharma and we have to annihilate Adharma. And whoever are the people on Adharma side, they need to be killed. Another thing, and again in Mahabharata, when Bhishma Pitama is lying in the arrows in the battlefield, then actually Krishna brings Pandavas to Bhishma. And at that time, Krishna requests Bhishma to give them niti, how to run the kingdom. And Draupadi was smiling at that time. And Bhishma Dev asked, why are you smiling? He said, you are giving the class on dharma, or you are giving a class on how to be a king. When I was being disrobed, what were you doing at that time? You didn't help. So what are you talking about? And at that time, Bhishma Dev said, because that salt was running in the form of a blood in my body at that time, I could not discriminate what is right and wrong. Now because of Arjuna's arrows, all that contaminated blood is out from my body. I'm able to visualize what is right and what is wrong. So it's very important to understand what is a Vishesha Dharma. Most of our life we are caught up in so petty things thinking that this is my duty, and ultimately we die miserably because whatever duty we are thinking to perform for our relatives, taking care of our family and all that stuff, when we die none of they are going to come with us. So what is important is practicing Krishna consciousness, that nobody is going to come with me. Have you ever seen you decide? Have you seen two people deciding, hey, let's go die together? We will go in a group. No, none of us can be born as a group, and none of us can die as a group. All of us are going to die alone. Nobody will be there with us. Right? So himself to be the, if one does not know that the super sanction is there, why should he act? But one who knows the instruments of work, himself as the worker and the supreme lord, or as the supreme sanctioner, is perfect in doing everything. This is called as faith, that Krishna has to sanction even if I desire. If it is not sanctioned by Krishna, it will not happen. Such a person is never an illusion. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego, like I said, the diameter of I, me, and mine, and godlessness or lack of Krishna consciousness. Anyone who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of Super Soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though killing, does not kill, nor is he ever affected by the reaction of such killing. When a soldier kills under the command of a superior officer, he is not subject to be judged. But if the same soldier kills on his own personal account, then he is certainly judged by the court law. Beautiful example. A same army officer who is on the border fighting for the country, when he kill the opposite party, he is not under the law. But on the personal account he wants to kill someone, then he is under the code. Right? So that's the difference. Any questions or comments here? Okay, let's
Mhm.
read text. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Yeah,
No,
I'm
okay.
fine.
Let's go with text 18. Jnananam geyam pari. परिजनता
ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं परिज्ञाता
त्रिविधा कर्म चोदना
त्रिविधा कर्म चोदना
करणं कर्म कर्तेति
करणं कर्म कर्तेति
त्रिविधा कर्म संग्रहः
त्रिविधा कर्म संग्रहः
knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors that motivate action. Amazing. What motivates us to perform certain action? The knowledge, and then the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are these constitutes of action. What is that? The senses, the activity which is being performed, and then the soul are the three constitution of action. Prabhupada mentions in the purport there are three kinds of impetus for daily work. Anything you do, it is inspired by knowledge, and then the object of knowledge. For an example, if I'm working in an IT company, knowledge is what? How to build the software. Object of knowledge is in terms of IT things, and then the knower, which is the soul. The instruments of work, the work itself, and worker are called constitution of at work. Any work done by any human being has three elements. Before one acts, there is some impetus, there is a desire, which is called as inspiration. Any solution arrived at before work is actualized in a subtle form of work because you are desiring to have something. Then work takes the form of action. So, first thing is you don't directly perform an action, there is a desire. For an example, if I'm hungry, I feel I want to eat, and that's how the next step happens on eating. But first thing is the desire. The first one has to undergo psychological process of thinking, feeling, and willing. This is called impetus. What are the three functions of mind? Thinking, feeling, and willing. Everything happens around these. Everything in the mind is all about thinking, feeling, willing. How am I feeling? Am I feeling distressed? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling happy? Where is all this coming from? Mind. And that's why Krishna said, Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada. A person who is not affected by happiness, distress, winter, or summer, because these are caused by the mind, right? Then work takes the form of action. First one has to undergo the psychophysical process of thinking, feeling, and willing, and that is called impetus. The inspiration to work is the same if it comes from the scripture or from the instruction of spiritual master. What is that? The inspiration to work is the same if it is coming from spiritual master or shastras, which means I'm performing a spiritual activity. When the inspiration is there and the worker is there, then the actual activity takes place by the help of senses. What is that? When the inspiration that I want to perform a certain action, but I need to have someone doing that, which is I need to do certain action. And how do I do that action? By the help of senses, which also includes the mind, right? Because mind drives everything. Mind is the controller of senses. Intelligence is the controller of the mind. The sum total of all consideration of activity is called accumulation of work. A detailed analysis around activities, around karma. Any questions or comments? I know this is the technical words, but any questions or comments here?
Approved.
Okay. Last today's last words. Let's read text 19. ज्ञानं कर्म च कर्ता च
ज्ञानं कर्म च कर्ता च
त्रिदवा गुणभेदतः
त्रिदैवा गुणभेदतः
प्रोच्यते गुणसङ्ख्येन
प्रोच्यते
उच्यते
गुणसङ्ख्यानाय
गुणसङ्ख्ये
यथा वाक्शृणोतनि तानि अपि.
यदा वच्छृणुतान्यपि
According to the three different modes of material nature, what are the three modes of material nature? Goodness, passion, and ignorance. Sattva, Raja, and Tama. There are three kinds of knowledge: action and performer of action. Again, everything boils down to these three modes of nature, and that actually, like a pure water drop comes from the cloud in rainy season, it comes pure, but when it comes in contact with mud, it becomes muddy. That's how these three modes of material nature are always affecting our consciousness in terms of thinking, feeling, and willing. The person who is in Rajoguna, his thinking is contaminated by Rajoguna, right? And his feeling is also contaminated by Rajoguna, thinking that I want to enjoy opposite sex. Where is that coming from? That is specific to person who is in Rajoguna, because he is under the mode of Rajoguna. That's why his thinking, feeling, and willing are purely based on that. For an example, if you have a holiday, a person in Sattva would think about reading scriptures, coming to temple and performing spiritual activities. A person who is in mode of passion would think about, let me go to a pub, let me go to a bar, let me figure out opposite side, opposite sex and enjoy with him or her. A person who is in tamoguna, he would say, let's sleep, let's not do anything. So where is this coming from? Three people who have same holiday, based on these modes of nature, they are reacting or they are acting accordingly, right? So that is what is being mentioned here. In the 14th chapter, the three division of modes of material nature were elaborately described. We read it in the 14th chapter, specifically talking about these three modes of material nature. In that chapter, it was said that the mode of goodness is illuminating. What is that? The mode of goodness is illuminating. The mode of passion is materialistic. And the mode of ignorance conducive to laziness and indolence. All the modes of material nature are binding, even sattva guna, even goodness. They are not sources of liberation. They are sources of repeated birth and death. Even in mode of goodness, one is conditioned. Like Yudhishthir Maharaj, when Krishna told, tell Ashwadama is dead, what happened? Yudhishthir Maharaj thought, how can I say lie? Because he is in sattva guna, right? He hesitated. And that's why, of course, he later understood this is Krishna's plan. But the point with Sattva Guna is people think, oh, everything is good. They are very self satisfied. I don't need God in picture. That's the other problem with Sattva Guna people. They respect God is there, but they don't have impetus to go out of this material world. They feel everything is great, it doesn't affect, that's okay. Things can, sometimes I can be happy, sometimes I can be sad, which is okay. That's what the material world is designed. But they don't think like I want to get out of this material world. That's fine, right? So that's the point. All the modes are binding, they are not sources of liberation. Even in the mode of goodness, one is conditioned. In the 17th chapter, the three different types of worship by different type of men in different modes of material nature were described. In this verse, the Lord says that He wishes to speak about a different type of knowledge, worker, and work itself according to three modes of material nature. Right? So this is a beginning of new series of verses which are actually focusing on that. And this is the first verse. Krishna is going to elaborate more on that. So we will continue on that next week. Any questions or comments here? If no, can we summarize what all things we discussed today?
The super soul, sorry, the performer is the body, the
Hmm.
soul, the senses, endeavor, and the super soul. And
Beautiful.
there are two dharmas, samanya and vishesha.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Which dharma are we supposed to follow?
I think vishesha.
Correct. Because that's higher. Any human can follow Samanya Dharma, but that is binding. That will not liberate us. We have to follow Vishesha Dharma. Beautiful. Thank you, Mataji. Anything else we discussed?
Something you said, we have to follow this. The something I forgot, but I could say the layman words is the inside voice. What is right? What is wrong? Something I forgot
Yes.
that you said.
Paramatma is the
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, Paramatma. Yeah, yeah.
Correct. And we need to follow that. There was a beautiful verse where we talking about even if person is killing, he doesn't get karma. What was that about?
I think Vishesh, no, 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 no. When he's bound by the dharma or something.
Okay, close. Anybody else wants to add?
Prabhuji, killing, it comes under Vishesha Dharma, right, Prabhuji, as you said.
Killing is not a Vishesha Dharma.
I mean, okay, killing in the sense, the example which you gave, like Karna's example, it
And
comes under Vishesha Dharma, right, Prabhuji?
correct. He followed Krishna's instruction, but I was specifically saying that why yeah, okay. Okay, I think yes, this is connected. But the most important point which we talked about is if anything is under the diameter of I, me, and mine,
Okay.
myself, my family, my country, as long as anything which is directed based on our false ego, then we get a reaction. But when it is not attached to the false ego and our intelligence is not cluttered, it's completely clear. So apparently, even if that person is killing, he doesn't get an action. We gave an example about Arjuna, right? So Arjuna initially was confused because his thought process was at tinged by false ego, thinking that what will happen to myself and my family. He was thinking about I, me, and mine. That's why he wasn't able to make a right decision. But when Krishna spoke, we are on 18th chapter. Krishna is about to finish Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is almost ready to fight now. He's completely clear what is he supposed to do from that perspective, right? That's what we discuss. Anything else before we wind up? So the last verse we talked about the knowledge, the knower, and the activities are tinged by three modes of material nature. How I'm performing certain action is purely depending on three modes of material nature. We give an example about if I have a holiday, a person in mode of goodness will think about how can I invest this time in going closer to Krishna. Rajoguna people will say, I want to enjoy an opposite sex. I want to enjoy drinking. I want to enjoy smoking. And then the person who is in mode of ignorance will say, I just want to lay down. I don't want to do anything. I just want to be lazy. Right? So that's how three modes of material nature are acting on us. Right? So now Krishna is going to elaborate on that, how these three modes of material nature affects on knowledge, knower. Okay. With that, we would like to end here. Thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. We will continue next week.